How do you see locus of control influencing company-wide decisions from the top for construction contractors? So we'll get a little background, little context on where that question came from. That came in around one of our insights talking about of control. Locus of control is the degree to which someone believes they have influence over outcomes. It's a part of personality psychology, and that's a part of organizational development. And probably the best way to think about personality psychology, organizational development, as they are to people what material science and engineering is to the materials that we use to go construct projects. When it comes to scaling a contractor, the people side is just as important as the material science and engineering side, and yet we spend far less time focusing on the people side of the business than we do on the material science and engineering. Now, drive across bridges all the time, so I'm super happy we spend a lot of time on the material science and engineering side. But if you really want to scale a construction business, you've got to start investing at some point in your career. You've got to start investing an equal amount of time in understanding the personality, psychology, and the organizational development principles around people. So with the locus of control, they basically, define on one end of the spectrum. And again, everybody falls on different parts of the spectrum in different areas. But on one side of the spectrum is more of an external locus of control, waiting, blaming, resentment. Those are the types of things that come up when there's an external locus of control. You'll hear words like we should and they should, we being in quotes, because we, when somebody uses it in that context, usually means someone, but really not me. So when they say we, it's kind of a fake we type of scenario. And then with an internal locus of control, that's where there's this bias towards action. I will and I did. Those are the phrases that you're going to hear from someone that has more of an internal locus of control. You can start to check for that in job interviews. It's a really helpful thing to start checking for. So I want to cover a couple quick, and there's more information on our website about locus of control. You can go look it up. But I want to talk about a couple other very closely related principles. One, Stephen Covey from Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Love this book. Totally changed a lot of probably the trajectory of my career. And he describes it as you have a circle of concern, things that you're aware of, things that you're paying attention to, and a smaller circle of influence. And if you're proactive with your energy, you're always working to go expand both. You're working to go expand the additional things that you see in on the project, within the company, within the community you live in, and within the world that we live in. And you're also continually working to expand your circle of influence. On the other hand, if there's more of a reactive focus, you are working to shrink both of those. You're working to tighten up your circle of concern to where it's really as narrow as possible around your circle of influence, because you want to probably think about it as a circle of control. But remember, we're hurtling through space at 67,000 miles per hour. So realistically, control is just control is probably not the right word to ever use. So another related concept, that's really important, that ties into this and ties into the answer, is kind of what I would call your confidence and your capability ratio. And so those things need to be in line. When they're in alignment, you're relatively safe. When your confidence exceeds your capabilities by too much, you're probably going to take too many risks. You're going to place too large of a bet, and you could lose. So you know don't be confident you can jump out of an airplane if you don't have the capability to jump out of an airplane. On the other hand, if your confidence is low as compared to your capabilities, you're probably being too conservative. You're not taking enough risks to get a good return. So you kind of want to keep that balance right in the middle. Another, important piece of this is understanding that there's few absolutes. So, the last time that I had any absolutes, I was in the field. I'm working. There are some definite absolutes in the field, some do's and do nots. And I came up as an electrician, so the lights coming on, there are absolutes to that. Once you get into foremanship, superintendent, project management, and any roles above that, there are fewer and fewer absolutes. And so it's understanding that there's never really 100% confidence or 100% capability, and that varies significantly, depending on what you're making a decision about. And you have to be comfortable making decisions with that ambiguity. And the last piece to tie into that is Dunning-Kruger There are a couple of researchers, and so they had studied how this truly plays out in the population. And here's what the curve actually looks like. So we talked about what it should look like. Here's what it actually looks like is when people first start to learn something, going from like really zero capability to a little bit of capability, their confidence shoots way, way, way up. Okay. And that's not out of arrogance. That's because of not knowing. So once those people see, what's going on, their confidence immediately starts to drop and come back into a realistic range. But you can see in that very, very beginning, that's where there's a lot of risk that's involved. So think about a new person coming onto your project. That's where your safety risk zone, happens to be. That a person's not trying to get hurt. They're just overly confident in their own abilities. They're overly confident in the protections that may be around them, which are never 100%. And so then they're going to overextend themselves. Now, then your other, thing that happens is then once people start to learn that, they kind of, touch the hot burner. If you're a parent, your kids are going to touch the hot burner. So then they start to become a little bit less confident over time, and it dips way, way down into that too conservative range for quite a while. That's also a problem to work through, especially with your middle managers, new managers into a role. That's a really important portion to work through. So you got to work to go build them up. On the other side of that curve, you get to become an expert, but you are unaware of how far or where everybody else is on that curve. And if you design the organization, you design your team, you design the organization, you design your systems around everybody being at the right-hand side of that curve, total failed mission. That also won't work out. So back to the question, how do you see locus of control influencing company-wide decisions from the top for construction contractors? I'm going to break it up into three really big examples. And these are, when I think about decisions from the top, what that means is this is where the leader is committing the company to a specific direction, and they're committing major resources. And along with those, when you talk about that range, that these are not things that have guaranteed 80-90% probabilities of outcomes. These are things that might have 75% chances of outcomes or even less, but you're making major commitments just the same. And these come around strategic market choices. Where are we going to choose to play, and how are we going to choose to win in that marketplace? For somebody that has more of an external locus of control, which we see a lot, they're a lot more reactive. They think about it more like birds of prey. Whatever happens to be out there, this is what I got to go take. The second place we see it is with opportunity evaluation for major projects. You have projects that might be anywhere from 30 to 50% or more to total annual volume. Projects that are, maybe part of your strategic choices, but they're not things that you have comfortable capabilities in. You can be very overconfident about your capabilities, and that overconfidence in the capabilities will change your pricing, change your terms. It'll change how much planning and effort you put into those projects and the risk controls. Travelers Construction Surety had a recent announcement that 60% of the contractor failures that they found were around a single catastrophic project failure. So one single catastrophic project taking out a contractor. That's the risk that you take as the owner, as a top executive in a business, as you go out there and you're looking at a major project. And then the third is on negotiation on pricing and terms. And that comes back to being more of an external locus of control. You will hear language, and you'll hear this all throughout an organization. It's a great thing to look for in an interview if you're hiring people. When people are talking about this is whatever the customer wants, this is what they told me, this is how it is. And that can go from, how much we're going to charge for the project to what our change order process is, the terms around claims, and when we agree to disagree, terms around payments, all of those things. Whereas somebody with more internal locus of control negotiates far, far differently on those. And you'd be surprised how we'll see two different contractors in exactly identical markets, even sometimes working for the same exact customer, getting dramatically different terms and has dramatically different outcomes on their businesses.
Go to dbmteam.com for more insights and resources, or to ask a question.